What up everyone, I am Gallant Havoc and it's time for another game review. So it's occurred to me that I haven't exactly talked about fighting games besides the odd mention or reaction. Just last year we got a brand new installment in a very beloved franchise. The one I'm talking about, of course, is Street Fighter 6. Not. Though Street Fighter 6 is a great game from everything I've heard and seen, I was never that big of a fan of Street Fighter. Blasphemy, I know. I was always more of a fan of the more extreme, bloody, and brutal. I started playing Mortal Kombat at a young age on the Sega Genesis port of the original. Mind you, this was well after the first game came out. I was born in '96 after all. But when I started playing at the ripe old age of 5 or 6, 7, somewhere around there, I loved it. Though I never actually owned an MK game till much later, mostly due to a semi-strict upbringing. So I only really got to play at friends' houses or on the copy that we borrowed for the Genesis from a family friend. But MK3, Deadly Alliance, Deception, and Armageddon were the ones that I got to play the most at friends' houses. We rocked that shit back in the day. Fast forward to Mortal Kombat vs. DC Universe, which was the first game I actually owned. It was alright. Then MK9 came out. And man, I loved MK9. MKX, I liked it. But MK11, easily my favorite to date. I used to live and die by MK3, but when 11 came around, oh boy, it was very swift to dethrone it. From the fighting, to the characters, to the fatalities, to the friendships, to the roster. I said the roster already. It just had everything I loved in a Mortal Kombat game. Hot take, I know, but we'll get to that. Fast forward to last year, Mortal Kombat 1 came out, and I gotta say, it was pretty damn good. MK1 is another reboot of the series, similar to MK9 but on a whole different scale. Slight story spoilers, but wibbly wobbly timey-wimey stuff from MK11, and by proxy 9, comes into play. Which brings us to this new timeline created by everyone's favorite chosen one, the newly christened fire god Liu Kang. So with Liu Kang being the one crafting the timeline, the stories and arcs of other characters have a vastly new and fresh take. Raiden and Kung Lao are now best friends, with Raiden now taking Liu Kang's place as champion of Earthrealm. Sindel was never brainwashed and murdered by Shao Kahn and Quan Chi, instead ruling Outworld with her daughters Kitana and Mileena, who is no longer a Tarkatan Edenian hybrid clone, but instead is Sindel's biological daughter infected by a disease called Tarkat that turns people Tarkatan, like Baraka. Shao Kahn, now General Shao, is a loyal servant to Sindel who protects Outworld from outside threats. And possibly the biggest shakeup, my boy Scorpion, is no longer Hanzo Hazashi, but is in fact Kuai Liang, originally the second Sub-Zero, or Tundra for you OGs. So with all these characters having different roles, it was definitely an adjustment. But before I spoil anything else, let's get back into the gameplay. MK1 handles really well, re-implementing assist characters from MK9, now known as cameos, and getting rid of the variations seen in MKX and 11, which I'll be honest is both a blessing and a curse. It's good because it grounds competitive players to use a strict set of special moves, making it more streamlined and competitive friendly. It's bad because it kind of takes away that freedom of making a fighter play the way you wanted them to play, with their own perks still intact. Speaking of, the customization in this, I found, was extremely lacking compared to MK11. In 11, you were able to change certain parts of equipment and skins, as well as change up cinematics like your intros or victories. In this, you're limited to changing skins, taunts, and a single piece of equipment, and the seasonal fatalities. For example, Scorpion's mask or Melina's size. I felt this was a huge blow to the game's appeal, as I really liked making the characters look like my own renditions of said characters, which I still kinda can, but just not as much. My Scorpion and Melina look super badass in this, I just gotta say. And the cool thing is, you can tag skins and equipment as favorites and then set it to randomize for every encounter, giving your characters a semi-unique look every time. Anyway, back to the fights. Now, being a new installment in a fighting game, they would obviously have to change up some combos to feel new. Sure, their special moves function similarly, like Scorpion's obvious spear and teleport, but man, some of these characters play vastly different than in 11, almost to the point where they're unrecognizable. My big three mains were always Scorpion, Melina, and Sindel. In this one though, they seem to have changed some characters more than others. I still rock as Scorpion and Melina, but Sindel plays so differently, it was a huge chore to relearn her combos. She doesn't have her main squeeze or whip and flip anymore, which were some of my favorite moves to use, or her back it up combo, which I may have used often for obvious reasons. But I've since adjusted, and she is still in my top 3. But damn, it took a bit. At least she can still scream your face off.
That was entertaining.
Brutality. Sindel wins.
Anyway, the game also did away with series staple, the Crypt, replacing it with a tabletop-esque mode called Invasions, which changes on a seasonal basis, which I find an interesting change, but it does also come with the expense of time-sensitive unlockables, which can be irritating. The same goes for the game's premium shopping currency, which again, is frustrating, but that's the gaming industry nowadays apparently.
No, that's a stupid fucking gimmick and everyone knows it!
Anyway, with all that being said, what did I think of Mortal Kombat 1? I did enjoy it quite a bit, and I still do. It brought the game back to the series' roots, which I don't see as a bad thing at all, but I do miss the absolute load of customization that 11 had. With the lack of customization to your moves, it definitely feels more like a step back to what MK9 was. If you liked MK9, you'll like MK1. Not to mention that some of the fatalities are significantly downgraded when it came to their brutality or gnarliness, compared to 11. There are exceptions though, like Reiko's and Baraka's. That is why I am giving Mortal Kombat 1 a gallant rating of 7 out of 10. The story was great, the twists were interesting, and the gameplay is solid and fun, even if it is a step back from what came before. For comparison, I give Mortal Kombat 11 a 9 out of 10.
You will submit.
Oh, she is just so smoking hot. God, I would do things to her that she would probably laugh at. You bitch!
So there's that. But that's not to say my opinion won't change, as we have plenty more characters and possibly expansions incoming. Here's hoping MK1 gets the same level of attention as 11 did, in terms of its longevity. Because, 11 not only had 2 combat packs, but the absolute massive expansion that was Aftermath, and the addition of friendships and stage fatalities, though it was limited to only 2 arenas. But anyway folks, that about wraps it up for this one. I am Gallant HAVOC, wreak some havoc, and there's only one thing left to say.
Finish them.
Who's your queen?
Fatality. Scorpion wins.